Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News on a big hairy day with a lot of things going on. Hey, Chewy.
Hi. One of the things going away is Western civilization.
Yeah, my brain has become a bit mush since watching that debate, and I no longer have words correctly forming in mine to mouth go. So
this just in, words mean nothing anymore.
Well, let's just set this up, shall we? Hey guys, how are you all doing? Hope you're doing well. People I've seen a little bit of the chat beforehand, and I put in the title. I mean, we only have a certain amount of characters to make our titles, and what I was trying to say is, was this underwhelming? Was it underwhelming, or was it a slam dunk? And I think that from watching it and tweeting it, and having a look at some of the commentary out there, I don't think it was the knockout blow that Harris needed. I don't think this debate will shift the needle. I think she won, obviously, and he did exactly what he always does and looks like a fool. But there wasn't that one moment that was like, bang, oh, you're gone, it's all over sort of thing. So I don't think you'll see a big shift in the polls yet. And I think they definitely need to have another debate. And if they have another debate, they got to have a crowd and they got to have mics on. And that would be essential, I think, because that will both harm Trump and allow him to do what he normally does to try and be bully boy boisterous, and it'll feed into it better for Harris.
I don't know if I agree.
Are you sure? Are you sure you're going to disagree with me? Are you sure? Is this part of the contract? Are we disagreeing now, or are we pretend disagreeing? Is that what we're doing? Okay, no, shall we? You no, go tell me.
Okay, so I agree in the fact that I don't think there was this spectacular fucking hammer blow where you can hit the air horns and go, it's all fucking over. That came after the debate. Yeah, there wasn't one. That happened after the debate when Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris.
Yeah, for sure.
Job done at that point.
Yeah.
My whole thing was you had Trump, who was always going to be Trump, a raving insane person, a walking Facebook comment section.
Yep.
Just a meme brought to life.
Yep.
And then you had someone that had to look like she could do the job. And I think
she was very, very good. Don't get me wrong. Okay. Well, here's the thing. If I'm wrong, we'll see it in the polls. Because what I'm basically saying is what we saw tonight won't move the needle. That's my thought. She won. She did exactly what she needed to do. She looked, I loved it when he never looked at her once. And she was just looking at him. And the perfect thing that she did, and she should have done this more, was sort of mock him and belittle him. Now, I know that sounds horrible, but you're talking about Trump, making him feel small, almost like you are doing a version of, are you using your big words? Have you got your big boy pants on tonight? That kind of vibe around it would have sucked him into showing his true self. Now, I could be wrong. We might see a 5-point bump in the polls. All I'm saying is it underwhelming? All I'm suggesting is I don't think we'll see a difference in the polls. I don't think it'll move the needle. But I hope I'm wrong.
I agree with that. And probably maybe for different reasons. Like the debates for people like us, people in the chat, right? It's a bit of entertainment.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people in the US that have already made up their minds one way or another and will not be swayed by this. And they will be MAGA guys that will just hand wave away all of Trump's insanity.
Yeah.
Like I saw the clip of him saying that there's people in Ohio eating dogs.
We've got that.
Cats and dogs and that sort of thing.
We've got that.
Live debunked. Actually not true. His whole pushback on that was, but I saw it on TV. The man on the TV said it was happening. This is insane. This is insane. This is brain damage territory for American democracy.
Yeah.
And there are people that are here for it because they hate what Trump hates. They want to say the N-word out loud without getting punched in the face.
I'm with you, but what we need in the election in the 2 months running up to it, whether it was our election or the US, is it's that middle 30%. And what I'm saying is I don't think I saw enough in that debate to shift that middle 30%. Now, if it is going to shift, it's going to shift towards Harris because she won the debate hands down. But look, maybe I'm putting on my my hat that kind of is playing the media game. Harris won. She won easily. He looked like an idiot. But I guess who wasn't thinking that was going to happen? I mean, his mega crowd were, but they were going to shift anyway. So basically the result was what we expected. And I just wonder if the result needed to be, like I said, a knockout blow, like a killer moment that would have shifted the needle more. But, you know, I could be wrong. We'll wait and see the next few weeks what the polls say.
Yeah. I think all that Kamala has to do here for that 30% in the middle, say, is to be competent and look like she could do a job.
Yeah.
Without being insane.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I love that we're at that point. We're at that point.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, and look, she was very strong.
All the crazy clips.
Yeah, and look, J Mac talks about a bit more mongrel, and that's right. She was very much talking to him, saying you're an embarrassment. It was great. He didn't look at her once, and I also noticed that she was taking notes. Obviously, for her next point, he was just standing there doing his, how he stands kind of, and he rocks and he leans forward. Wasn't even paying attention. Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. Hi team, thanks for joining the show. We're talking about it, so let's actually just get into it, right?
We pretty much started at the second third of the show, didn't we?
Yeah. All right. Let's just get into it. And this is a couple of ABC clips. Now I'm going to show you the highlights. Sorry, highlights, speech marks around them. And then I want to show you, I think I've got 3 specific clips from it. And I think looking at the 2 closing statements summarizes the whole thing perfectly. And not necessarily because of what they said, but maybe because what one particular individual didn't say. So here's about a 4-minute package of some of the highs and lows that happened in the debate this afternoon.
Kamala Harris.
Tonight,
even that was strong. She introduced herself.
That was brilliant.
We've never met.
Waited in the middle. She waited in the middle where he's supposed to come to.
She went all the way to him, and so she took the space. Great, perfect. What a great way to start.
Historic face-off. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump going head-to-head in their first and what will likely be their only debate.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Because, okay, so now I'll take a little step back and I say, I don't think this will shift the needle, but if it will help someone, it'll help Harris. Right? If it does help, it's not going to help Trump. If it does help, it'll help Harris. And if it helps Harris, then Trump will have to do another one. So I'm not so sure about this will be the one and only. We'll wait and see.
Before Election Day.
If she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. She has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window.
I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies.
Strong,
what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion.
It's rating.
Yep.
And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you.
Trump.
Great line.
She's been so bad. It's so ridiculous.
Trump in his 7th presidential debate. Harris, her first.
I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you.
Great lines.
And they say you're a disgrace.
Yeah, great.
The candidates clashing.
Great. And he never really came back from that. He never really disputed it because he can't, because they'll say it on CNN tomorrow.
Major issues like the economy.
Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. And
this is something that didn't come up so much in there, because what Trump's been doing is what every political party does. What Trump does is he wants to blame something like unemployment. He'll blame COVID. But if he wants to take, what's the opposite of blame someone? Well, credit. We want to take credit for something like, for example, the price of petrol, which dropped because no one was driving anywhere because of COVID. He won't. So he uses COVID to blame himself for the bad numbers, like to blame, unemployment was bad, thanks COVID. But look what I did with petrol prices. No one was crossing the border. Yeah, because even the people from South America were kind of locked up. So for the things that he wants to amplify now, he uses COVID for good. For the things he wants to minimize, he uses COVID for bad. And this is a good example of it. This never came up, and I'm surprised it didn't, because if he had have come back saying it was because of COVID, the unemployment numbers are worse than they were pre-COVID. So that's how they measure it. And there are now more people working, and the numbers are better than they were pre-COVID. So this is I heard someone say the other day, I think since the last 50 years or something like that, there's been 51 million jobs created in America. 50 million of them under Democratic presidents, 1 million under Republicans. So, you know, you can just see this narrative of the right knowing business. It's not the case. We'll keep going.
What we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America.
I had no inflation, virtually no inflation.
COVID.
They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else.
Why did Lucinda do that?
Yeah, why do people actually? This is the big interesting question to a Trump sycophant. Did they actually believe that people can't go out and buy bacon and cereal? Like, is every single Trump supporter where they used to have a shelf full of cereal like Seinfeld, now they've got nothing because we can't afford our cornflakes anymore? Like, when a sycophant hears that, what do they think? I'm just shocked by it, eh? All right, here we go.
The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy.
Abortion.
And I pledge to you,
Yeah, strong.
when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother.
Interesting to see what the pro-life campaign say about that, because when he said he'd be positive for women's health, they lost their shit. Interesting tomorrow to see what they say about that line.
She said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote.
And immigration.
I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings.
They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world.
And note as well, and you'll see this in the summaries, their closing statements, what we're hearing from Trump is everything that's wrong, in his opinion. And what we're hearing from Harris is what she's going to do. That was the theme of the night. Like we've said, in New Zealand, the left tends to make policy, make law. The right tends to respond to the left's policy and law. And you kind of saw it in this, where his whole time was spent saying, them bad, them did this, look out because they will do this. And she spent most of the time saying, I will do this. I will do this. By the way, he did this. I will do this. I will do this. By the way, he will do this. It was his only form of talking was talking about, I was going to say Labor bad, it gets into my head, Democrats bad, basically.
Crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof.
True.
Harris mentioning Trump's legal woes, including 4 felony indictments and 1 conviction.
I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his
should have gone harder on that. Should have gone harder. This is where I'm saying that killer blow didn't come. She could have gone so much harder. He's an adjudicated rapist, right? Adjudicated means in a courtroom, not convicted in a criminal court, but he's an adjudicated sexual offender, a sexual predator. Could have gone harder on that.
His next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing.
Trump doubling down on his lies that he won the 2020 election.
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
that.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that.
Their differences stark, making their pitches in a race that poll after poll show is neck and neck.
The President of the United States is commander-in-chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia.
I think I put out a tweet today that said something like, I wonder who in their prep the Republicans decided to go with I am rubber and you are glue defense for his debate thing today, because they happened to I'm not me, them. I literally said that. We're not it. You are. We aren't. You are. And my dad's bigger and stronger than your dad. You are. So, Chewy, I don't know. I watched it all live. There's a few quote unquote highlights for you before we go into a couple more clips. Any thoughts?
I do want to comment on him going, "Oh, I probably took a bullet to the head."
Yeah.
Just something I saw this morning, that the FBI had a stand up saying that Trump's not cooperating with their investigation into that shooting. But it was more about who the FBI put up for that stand up. They put up an agent that has been shot in the ear,
Right.
missing a big chunk of his ear, which
Yeah.
that can't be accidental. That is very, very funny to me. I think I saw one person that's up there presidential,
100% agree.
And then the representative for everybody that wants everything to burn, everything to the ground.
Yeah.
It does not matter as long as the people I don't like get punished.
Yeah. Yeah. The unpresidential candidate, there's people texting saying, CNN said 33 lies. He told far more lies. Honestly, the very first thing he said, I went, not true, not true, not true, not true. Like there are like 5 in his first opening stanza. And I think that maybe there was 33 big ones or really easy ones, but even what we're listening to here, we probably heard 10 or 15. So there was far more than 33. If you took it to the letter of the law and went to untruths that he said. I do have some of those around, I think, here. Actually, should I have a look? Oh, here we go. Let's have a look at a couple of them. This is from The Guardian. Fact-checking Trump's debate claims. Crime of the US is up. Though the data is preliminary, it includes numbers from 80% of the law enforcement agencies saying it was down. Violent crime is down overall. Abortion falsehoods. The facts: fewer than 1% of abortions are performed in the past 21 weeks. Trump also suggested at multiple points abortions take place after birth. This would be infanticide, and it's illegal in all 50 states. Trump denies involvement in Project 2025. The facts, though, Trump has tried repeatedly to distance himself from the platform, which seeks to strip away reproductive rights and LGBT rights and voting rights. His policies heavily align with Project 2025. We haven't talked about Tenet Media this week. I'm sure you've all heard about Tenet Media, the Russian guys who have been infiltrating the right-wing media. Tim Pool's been mentioned. Dave Rubin, who I've interviewed, has been mentioned. Lauren Southern's been mentioned. This is what they do, right? They don't necessarily go, here's some money. Could you say this for us? It's the same as when Fox News says, we never tell our hosts to say anything. It's they employ hosts who they know are going to say something. So they get money through to people like Tim Pool because they know what he's going to say and they want it amplified. So that's how they do it, and still are able to, the hosts are able to wipe their hands saying, I have no idea, no one's told me what to say. Sort of the same thing around Project 2025. Trump makes false claims about immigration. Trump claims immigrants are eating pets in Ohio. We'll actually play some video for you shortly. Trump repeats 2020 election misinformation. Trump and Harris argue over best or worst economy. Trump boasted that the US experienced the best economy under his administration, while Harris noted that he left the US with the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. They're both wrong. Trump by a lot, Harris by a shade. So it's a pretty fair fact check. Anyway, let's go and have a look at the much talked about dog eating, cat eating. I mean, like, again, if you're a Trump sycophant, mind you, I've had someone in my Twitter feed today say that this is real. Like, I've had someone say, because it's real.
So I've noticed a bunch of this, like people talking about apartment buildings being taken over by Venezuelans, people eating pets, this is Fox News, this is Truth Social come to life. Remember when they used to say that there were no-go areas in Manchester and London, stuff like that? It's the same thing, but now it's happening there.
Yeah.
And this is, again, playing to the base. That he's trying to convince people that don't need convincing.
Here we go. They're eating dog.
This is like people saying that there's litter boxes for high school people that identify as cats. It's like there's no There's no fucking evidence. Everybody's seen something. Nobody can produce it.
It's the same as any kind of urban myth. It's always, you always know, because it's like, I know someone who knows someone. So this is what I tweeted out, in quote, they're eating the dogs, end quote. This is an SNL skit, eh? And
SNL's back in a couple of weeks. It absolutely will be.
And someone said to me, here, it's a fact, you sleazy lying prick. Someone called Kia 101. And then someone responded to them like that. Nope. It looks like bullshit from this angle too. So yeah, but I was surprised, you know, there's people in there doing it. Okay, well, let's have a look at it. Let's have a look what he actually had to say. Yeah, this might be Trump's version of Sarah Palin's I can see Russia from my porch. Maybe this will be his version of it for this run up to the election.
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in.
Dogs.
Her reaction, perfect. I'm more laughing at him. Like he's a narcissist, if not legitimately, certainly technically. And the worst thing you can do for him is to basically mock him and treat him like he's small. Oh, big boy pants, you got your big boy pants on. And her laughing like this is exactly that.
The people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there had been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say.
I wonder if he's ever seen on television when they fill a pelican's beak with concrete to make, and then like if you've seen that on television, I wonder if he thinks that's how they make concrete or wash their dishes when they fill a pelican's beak with all the dishes to do it, get it washed. Or they have like a elephant's trunk to have their shower. He's probably seen that on television too. I wonder if that's how he thinks. Maybe that's his whole thing about toilets as well, has been watching the Flintstones and he thinks that's real life. That could possibly be it. Possibly.
My dog.
How do you follow a statement like that?
Yeah. Well, let's listen to what the moderator said.
Say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
But the people
I'm
on television saying their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
By immigrants. I've got two more clips to play through, which they're both their clothing statements. But have at it, my friend. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats.
How do you follow that? Like as a serious, like this is someone that is running for office, the most powerful, most heavily armed, most wealthy country in the world.
Yeah.
And he's repeating something that he's seen on Truth Social or a fucking meme, some racist meme, as if it's true because he saw the lady on the TV said that they're taking the pets for, like, how did Kamala just not go, like, go full office, just look down the camera and go, are you hearing this shit?
Well, she kind of did. She was like, what's going on? You know, that's where, like, another moment would have been great to have the mics on. I think they should have their mics on. I hope they do another one.
This isn't even the most crazy thing he said. Like any other presidential debate in history, that would have been the craziest thing ever said.
Yeah.
And we know that there's more coming that is even more crazy. What the fuck is going on, America?
Let's get to these last two clips, because I actually think if you've seen nothing else from the debate, their two closing statements will paint a perfect picture of the whole debate, where Kamala talks about her policies and what she's going to do, and Trump talks about Kamala's policies and what she's going to do. It's actually a perfect sort of synopsis of what the whole thing was. So they're only 2 minutes each. Here's, I think this is Kamala. Let me check. Yep, Harris. So this is Kamala's closing statement.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the
some
future,
heavy lifting there.
and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Now, I mean, being fair, it was a little bit vision boardy, you know, like, oh, let's do all the, but in that thing, I wrote down she was saying that she talked about, even though she gave no details, she talked about helping small business, helping families, helping seniors. She talked about the hardworking folks. She talked about America's standing in the world. She talked about getting respect back. She talked about protecting rights and freedoms. So it was vision boardy, you know, because it wasn't like this is the policy and this is how it's going to work. It was more, is it macro up the top? Well, macro is closer, isn't it? Anyway, it's a big picture kind of thing. It's a vision board kind of thing. But she was talking about her vision, what she was going to do, right? Would that be fair, Chewy? That's what you heard? Okay, so absolutely. now Trump has the ability for 2 minutes to sell his vision to the nation, and pretty much all he does is talk about Kamala Harris. So she's just talked about herself and her vision, and Trump's closing statement is talking about her as well. It's a perfect snapshot, these ways that they've been communicating of the whole debate.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like, we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
Now, I would challenge you to find a single sentence there that was talking about how Donald Trump would be the president. Just remember as well, he said she didn't fix the border. Well, they did. They had an opportunity to do that, and Donald Trump told his Republican counterparts not to vote for it, and so they didn't. So they killed it. It was quite a conservative bill too. He says they haven't fixed the jobs. They've had record employment. So that's been done. All he did was whinge and then badmouth the US and then talk about Kamala. And finally, one thing I do agree with, he says we're being laughed at all over the world. I don't think he realizes that they are being laughed at all over the world, but it's because of people like Donald Trump being a hair's breadth away from the Oval Office. That's why they're laughing, not for any other reason. But there you go, Chewy. There's the two closing statements. Happy to have a crack.
Oh, there's so much. It's like trying to pull a thread out of a diarrhea toilet bowl. Yeah, my imagery is on point. I love the fact that he's talking about she's had 3 years to do something. She wasn't the president. She's the vice president. A very ceremonial role for the most part, just in case Joe Biden falls off his bike again.
Yep.
So I almost think that that's something that's has been in the notes the whole time. It's brave of him to bring up the Taliban.
Yeah, so he tried to invite them to Camp David.
He invited them to Camp David. And the whole thing with Afghanistan, Donald Trump made the deal of the century to get the US to withdraw from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
He did it on such a tight timeline, knowing that if he lost the election, his successor would have to deal with the fallout. And that's why it was such a fucking shit show. And he has been parading around in Arlington Cemetery at the grave of a soldier that died in that withdrawal, trying to make political points out of that, of something that he set in motion and people died, so he had something to beat up Biden over.
But this
Man,
is also an issue from within the media, because him and his surrogates have been saying no one died under my watch. 69 people died in Afghanistan while he was 69 Americans died in Afghanistan while he was the president. 13 died under Joe Biden, which was the 13 you're talking about. But they've just let that go. They just let it go. Off it goes. The 69 who died while Trump was president, no one's talking about it. Now, Chewy, there are about 6 million super chats in here. So let's go through. I said the croissant. You guys are funny. Let's go through and check out some of these super chats. Campbell, thank you for the super chat. Look, thank everybody for the super chat. I won't say that 17 times. Slam, whack, pow, I surrender is all I heard when Kamala slayed the dog. Yeah. Weka Digital Media says, enjoyed the show last night. Kia ora koutua. Thank you. Appreciate that. Brent says, she won, but was not forceful enough in calling him out till the end. Still voting Kamala for the win. Yeah, it's interesting. The polls are starting to soften a bit on Kamala. She's had a pretty free run of it for the last wee while, and it doesn't look as. It looked like when he got his ear nicked, it looked like it was his to lose, right? I've said before, it's like the soccer goal was open. The ball was 6 feet in front of the goal. There was no goalie. All he had to do was tap it in to win, and for some reason he kicked it into the stand. So he asked that up. And then for the last kind of few weeks, it looks like it's been Kamala's to lose. And now it feels like it's back to a 50-50 game. So it's going to be tight. It is going to be tight, and it could go either way, according to the polls at least. Much better than Biden v. Trump. I agree with that. Thank you, Peter. Kiwi says, I think the Tim Walz debate will seal the deal. Yeah, that'll be really interesting, actually, because he's brilliant. He's very good. CNN poll, 67% Harris, 33% Trump. Harris win. There you go from Brian. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Tafari says, go Karl Marxia Harris, leader of all the socialisms. Kiwi Bird said,
I did love that when he accused Kamala of being socialist, and man, I laughed. Like there's a US politician that's close to being a bit like she is, to be honest, by our register, center right.
Yeah, let's talk. To finish these super chats, let's talk about the Israel-Gaza situation, because there's a fair few complaints in there. Because, to be honest, I agree with you all about the centrist Democrats' position on Gaza, but for a centrist, her answer was passable, just passable. Wasn't good, wasn't bad, passable. Not good enough for the progressives, but certainly way better than what Biden was talking about and others within the Democratic Party. Kiwi Bird says, I hope Chippy is taking notes from this debate. JC and the Pigeon Cat says, late fee. Kooky Nick has a tardiness ticket. Sexy Ranger 35. Yeah, there we go. Her Palestinian and border policy is fascism with decorum. Ken says they're eating millions of pets. It's on TV. Thank you all for your super chat so far. Mata says that's what people were saying about Pacific Islands back in the Dawn Raid days about dogs. Yeah. Yep, absolutely they were. Tafari again, Donald Trump is an anagram for mad old PR nut. Really? That's pretty good. Mad old PR nut. And Ken also echoes that idea. Kamala doesn't care about Palestinians, though. Wooming wraps us up by saying, late fee. Also, my favorite moment was Trump's reaction to Harris's comment on his sleepy crowds. She found his vulnerable spot. Yeah, absolutely. He, I guess in a crass way, it's like he measures something, and the thing he wants to measure is his crowds. He thinks that's what makes him.
And his ratings.
Yeah, and his ratings. Now so I haven't got it queued up to play you exactly, but my reckoning of her Palestinian conversation was, in October there was an attack by a terrorist group. Israel had every right to defend itself from that attack. Far too many Palestinians have died, and there needs to be an immediate ceasefire. So I don't like the answer in its entirety, but I know how the political world works. And you know what? Centrist Democrats are still, most of them are still Zionists. Let's be fair, most of them. So to me, in this instance, in that moment, for her, it was passable, but it still wasn't good enough. I mean, she should have gone much harder on Israel and what they've done, rather than just going too many. I mean, I am paraphrasing, but too many, but she did bring up innocent civilians. She said women and children and the elderly. It wasn't just like a blow away, push away. So I think for this instance, in this moment, she got a message out, which I didn't think was strong enough, but compared to what Biden would have said or other centrist Democrats, it was okay, if nothing else. But then again, they've mentioned policy. Her policy might not be that. I'm going to look further into that. Drew, I don't know if you've seen that, Drew, but do you want to share anything?
Yeah, I agree. It was good by the frame of reference that we have for American politics.
Yeah.
It fits in exactly where I thought she would. I think it is a reflection of some of the pushback around US policy towards Israel and that sort of thing. It is by no means strong enough by my reckon.
Yeah.
And Israel will do what Israel has always done. Ignore it and keep doing what they're doing, because they don't give a fuck. Because these politicians, Biden can say whatever he wants, Kamala can say whatever she wants, Trump can say whatever he wants. As long as the weapons aid keeps coming, Israel does not care.
Yeah. I've just thought I might as well try and find it. So I'm just looking it up. All right, let me read this out. This is on AA.com, whatever that is. Trump says she hates Israel. If she was the president, I believe Israel would not exist within 2 years from now. She wouldn't even meet with the Israeli prime minister, yada, 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 yada. Harris' response was, this is, let me read it, because I don't want to kind of let her off too lightly or be too harsh on what she actually, let's just read what she said. She says this, Harris in response said, this is absolutely not true. Goes on to say this, quote, I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. She said Israel had the right to defend themselves, including against threats from Iran and its powers, but added that how it does it matters. Again, to a quote, it is also true. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed, children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately. And the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal, and we need the hostages out. We will continue to work around the clock on that. it's a bit centrist middle, but it's not like some Democrats are
Yeah,
literally have the right to defend themselves and then they stop. So it's about as good as you're going to get from someone who's not a progressive in the American system. Put it that way.
We all know that there must be a ceasefire now. Because of that, we're stopping all weapons shipments to Israel.
Yep.
Yeah, throw an ultimatum in there. Like there's a way to do it. We are redirecting all of our military aid towards the defense of Ukraine. If you want to get 2 thumbs up from Chewy, that's how you do it. Stop bombing tents.
I guess let's just mention this super quick, mostly because 2 of my children are bloody Swifties, aren't they? This is actually really big news because Taylor Swift carries a huge amount of weight with a huge number of people under 30, like a huge number of people under 30. This is what Taylor Swift said. Like many of you, no, I won't be silly. Like many of you, I watched the debate tonight. If you haven't already, now is a great time to do your research on the issues at hand and the stances these candidates take on topics that matter to you the most. As a voter, I make sure to watch and read everything I can about their proposed policies and plans for this country. Recently, I was made aware that an AI of me falsely endorsing Donald Trump's presidential run was posted to his site. It really conjured up my fears around AI and the dangers of spreading misinformation. It brought me to the conclusion that I need to be very transparent about my actual plans for this election as a voter. The simplest way to combat misinformation is with the truth. I will be casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in the 2024 presidential election. I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she fights for the rights and causes I believe need a warrior to champion them. I think she is a steady-handed, gifted leader, and I believe we can accomplish so much more in this country if we are led by calm and not chaos. It's a great line. I was so heartened and impressed by her selection of running mate Tim Walz, who has been standing up for LGBT plus rights, IVF, and a woman's right to her own body for decades. Let me just tangent off this, Chewy, because some people may not know what I'm about to tell you. He was the football coach at a high school in 1999. And in 1999, he insisted that he was like the LGBT representative and advocate within that school. And he's actually made statements to say it was really important that the football coach, the manliest of manly kind of people within the school, was also the LGBT advocate. There is a lot of criticism about people like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton not finding their voice for same-sex marriage until 2010. Tim Walz was doing this as a football coach, advocating for LGBT teens in his school in 1999. He's got, is it thoroughbred? Anyway, he's through and through, right? And if you didn't know that, now you know. It's a really important point. For him, it's not I better change my position for the vote. He's been doing it for well before he was a politician. Taylor goes on, I've done my research and I've made my choice. Your research is yours to do and the choice is yours to make. I also want to say, especially to first-time voters, remember that in order to vote, you have to register. I also find it much easier to vote early. I'll link where to register and find early voting dates and info in my story. With love and hope, Taylor Swift. Childless cat lady. Just a little in there to JD Vance. And I mean, if you were being an honest actor in this, Chewy, as a politician, who can be upset about that? Get out and register. Make sure you vote. Vote for who represents you. Do your research.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As soon as I heard that, I turned to my colleague and I was like, well, that's the election over.
She might give someone a 1% bump. 100%.
She's mobilized the Swifties. No, more to the point. She might be mobilizing a very dangerous generation. Like the younger voters in the US have had nobody gives a shit about them. Why would you vote?
Yeah.
Nobody standing represented them. And now Taylor's pointed out these things that are important to her fans and potential younger voters.
Yeah.
Like the Republican Party thrives on exactly the same thing that happens here. Older people vote right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't criticize the statement. I think it's brilliant. And I would be very, very worried. They said that when those AI images were doing the rounds, they were like, I don't know, do you want to piss off Taylor, who has kind of always stayed out of this?
Yeah. Well, she hasn't
Well,
actually.
there you go.
My kids have made me sit down and watch 2 of the documentaries on. They might be on Disney, and there's a scene in one of them where a local senator I think it's in Tennessee, which is where she's from, a Republican, is coming out to try and stop a woman's right to choose. And there's this conversation in a lounge between her and her dad and her mum, and she's really emotional. And she goes, "This woman, I think her name's Marcy, someone. This woman represents Tennessee as a Tennessee Christian. This is not Tennessee Christianity. I'm a Tennessee Christian." And her father's like, "Do you want to lose half your, your base?" And then her mother comes in and her father comes back and goes, "I don't want to have to organize bulletproof limousines every time we go out." So they're aware of it. So, the last time around she was starting to get into it, but it seems that now, she probably is the most famous person in the world. Probably. Most famous female, certainly the most famous entertainer in the world. And so obviously the bigger her reach, the more responsibility she takes with it. So yeah, interesting. All right. There's a few more super chats there. Should we do them now?
Yeah, sure. You
guys are doing really good. I'm going to be able to pay for my honeymoon soon. Well done, team. Bud Cool Forward sent a super sticker, which I can't see because it's only on YouTube.
Well, I can tell you what it is. It is a
then.
pear-shaped thing with a sweatband saying cool.
Cool. Thank you. Free Soul, of course, mentioned this truth. Her husband is Jewish. She's called out Netanyahu before. Sexy Ranger 39. She said she will always send weapons to Israel. Yeah, look, you're not gonna. If you actually have a look back to when she was a prosecutor as well, some of the things, the drug laws and stuff that she prosecuted. No one here is saying, Kamala has the perfect record and has the perfect policy thing now. But compared to a sadomasochist who does want to be king of America, and I know that it's horrible having to suck on the lemon that you don't get everything exactly as you want it, but she's the best option at the moment. I mean, that's what it goes down to. And look, to be honest, imagine Tim Walz as president in 8 years from now. Think about that, Chewy. That's a pretty dope thought.
You have to, it's such a stark choice. Like I mentioned this at the start, that this is a choice between sanity and insanity.
Yeah.
And it is fine to criticize your side, your pick. She is clearly the vote for sanity. She is clearly the adult in the room. But we can still sit there and go, we wish she was stronger on Israel. Wish she did this, she did that. Obama was objectively a great president. Did more drone strikes.
Yeah.
Bombed more countries than anyone else. It's US politics. It's fucked.
And this is also the most.
Well.
It's the most progressive ticket there's ever been, because Walz is left of her. So he may be he's a DEI, obviously, because she needed a white male. But he is left of her, just with his pedigree around LGBT issues and that kind of stuff. So, you might see that she gets in and things might slightly change. What you just talked about, the sane choice, I'm just going to drop back to what old mate Tay said. The line that she said, "If we are led by calm and not chaos." I think it's a really, really good line. Really
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, we're going to keep trucking and move on, because there was a little story that kind of tried to sneak under the radar today. And that was about the New Zealand Law Society have come out, and they are very concerned, Chewy, about the gang laws where police are allowed to go into houses to, if they believe some offenders are living in a house with gang insignia. So the first thing they're doing on breakfast this morning is they're putting out their concerns.
Begin with your concerns. What are you most concerned about with this amendment?
Morning, Jenny May. Look, the main concern for the Law Society is process. The proposal, or the amendment, has been proposed over a month after the select committee process concluded. And I guess that means it's months, plural, after submissions close on the bill. And what the amendment does is add a substantive new offence, and as you've highlighted there, some search powers for the police, that's not the sort of amendment we'd expect so late in the process and without public consultation. A secondary concern for the society, although it's one we raise more because we have the forum than being experts in the various fields that are touched upon, is just the merits of the amendment, whether it would actually deter, whether it risks conflict with the Bill of Rights, and there's some serious rule of law concerns that we've raised as well.
Yeah, and as far as I'm aware, there is no evidence to suggest that something like this will deter offending or gang membership. I want to go back to your concerns again, because there was an open letter that was penned by the New Zealand Law Society, and in that, the third point is the Law Society asks that the amendment paper does not proceed. If it does proceed, we urge wider public consultation. Have you had a response from the Minister on that paper?
Not a direct response. There have been various pieces of media commentary I'm aware of, and an assurance that we'll hear back in due course. We had yesterday some assurances in the media that the government's firmly of the view that a good process was followed. But aside from those media statements and so on, no, we have not had a direct response to the letter.
Okay, Chris, we've got a response from the Justice Minister, Paul Goldsmith.
It's funny, eh? He wouldn't respond to the Law Society, but media, I want to see my face on the media. I can't reply to you.
He provided us with a very brief statement, which says, as the bill made its way through the select committee process, police identified an additional tool that would help them deal with what we expect to be a small group of people that repeatedly flout the gang patch ban.
This is the problem, and we've said this before. I might fumble over this a little bit, but the point being, you put laws in place so that you can take action against a very small slice of people. But equally, rights are only put in place legally, human rights, because a very small slice of people may suffer ill effects about those rights. So it's a little bit like we're only as strong as our weakest link. Our human rights laws, our rights laws are only as strong as how they can defend bad people, because human rights are very different from criminal rights. And as kind of oxymoronical as it sounds, much like we only need laws around murder because a very, very slim percentage of people will commit it, we only need some kind of laws protecting our human rights because a very, very small number of people will be subject to victims of having human rights against them. And it doesn't matter whether they are wearing a white hat or a black hat or a good guy or a bad guy. All the human rights are the same for all humans. And that's when you're trying to carve out, these guys aren't going to have the same rights as others. This is, I think, what the Law Society is concerned about. This has got 60 seconds, Joe. You got to say anything before that?
No, just to echo what you're saying there, yeah, making wholesale changes to a law to target a very small group of people sounds like the complete arse about face way to do this.
Yeah.
And that's where you get bad laws.
Yep. Here we go.
A reasonable response to a legal issue?
Look, it's a response. The thing we've got to remember there is that the police are, at the select committee process, just one interested group, albeit one with significant experience.
This is a very good point, because the police made this suggestion, and what the guy from the law side is about to say is, yeah, they were one group that submitted. If we're going to listen to them as one group, why don't we listen to all the other one groups and take on board what their suggestions are? It's a very interesting and well thought out answer this.
Experience in the field. And so that's a little bit like saying, look, one interested group came along and said this, and we've acted upon that, which is, even if they are a group that's particularly close to the action, not really what's intended. And I just urge those that are looking into this further to dig a bit deeper on some of these things, because my understanding is the police were tabling, or at least providing information along these sorts of lines around about March this year. Submissions closed in April. And so quite whether or not it was the police raising it as an enforcement concern or not, quite why it's not then put into the set committee process for consultation is something the society can't answer, but is certainly concerned about. So yes, response, look, the logic of it's flawless on paper. Someone suggested it, we thought it's a good idea, but that actually doesn't make it stand aside from any of the other many suggestions at select committee, none of which have received this treatment, and none of which have resulted in the last minute and reasonably substantial amendment.
Yeah. So there was lots of individual opinions from lots of individual groups. Doesn't mean that we have to take this individual group's opinion on as gospel and then change the law last minute about it as well. There's another clip to play that we're going to talk about individual rights, about doing things in public versus in private. But before we do that, Chewy, you want to speak to any of what we've just said?
Just again, looping back to this targeting of a very small group of people. So we're going to change the law. Like the flip side of that is, we should be concerned about probably a small section of police that will overstep, that will use it in the wrong ways. This happens often.
Yeah.
Like, police aren't necessarily the great, always perfect, always moral force. Police overstep. Police cock up investigations. Police can sometimes be rapists. You know, it's one of these things that it's like, yes, it's got to protect everybody from impropriety. And that law doesn't do it.
And what you're saying is police are human beings. Human beings have failed. Some police are going to fail, are going to fall like any other human. Just because they've got a shiny badge on is no different from someone wearing a leather belt with their hammers in it who also falls. You know, because they're humans and people fall.
Police, by virtue of their position, should be held to a very high standard and should be given the tools that allow them to maintain that high standard. If you put out a bullshit, muddled law that lets them overstep, then you're doing a disservice to the police. You're doing the disservice to society as well.
No,
if it's a small amount of offenders, there's other ways you can manage it.
And now we're going to get onto that. The Law Societies are now going to talk about individual rights and legislation that's made to stop something happening in public. Why would you pass a law that also stops it from happening in private? And he goes on to talk a little bit about unreasonable search. Let's have a listen.
But the question must always be, whenever we set out with a goal in mind, is that going to infringe on individual rights? So it's one thing to say, look, in public, you can't do this. It's significantly different to say in private, you can't have, for example, a gang patch hanging on the wall or up in the garage or anywhere else within your normal place of residence, as it's phrased. So in terms of unreasonable search, you've got a search that's not directly linked, or at least arguably not. You know, this is where the select committee process would be required to tease out the various arguments. But it's arguably not linked to the purpose. So stop this stuff in public. Therefore, we're going to infringe on, or we're going to search your private home. That's a difficult one. And then secondly, in terms of freedom of expression, it's one thing to say, look, in public, you can't say something that's perceived as intimidating. You can't push ahead or wear something that some people feel scared of or that promotes antisocial values. It's quite another to say you can't do that in your home. And it's quite alarming when one thinks about it right now. This is, tough on gangs, but if we take a complete ends justifies the means position, then what if future governments have the ability to get tough on with a simple majority in Parliament?
And that's the whole point, that that famous poem, "There was no one left to fight for me." First they came for the gypsies and I didn't speak up, and then they came for I didn't speak up, and then they came and I didn't speak up, and then there was no one left to speak up for me. So that's the reason that even though you might consider some of these people who are coming under this law to be like, haha, sucked in, you're a bad person, but okay, if no one speaks up for them, then we don't speak up for another group, then we don't speak up for another group, and then they come for you. That's what the Law Society doodlet is saying.
In people's homes, there's all sorts of belief structures, cultural structures, and so on that people hold that others might not like. And I'm not for a moment sticking up for outlaw gangs and so on, but I am pointing out that on paper, and this is the same law has to apply to everyone. If we go amending the law like this, then individuals' rights to expression and belief in their home are at risk, and that's the kind of risk you'd expect some fairly powerful, robust consultation about, rather than a last-minute amendment.
There you go. So, there was no one left to fight for me. And I just think always, when we're thinking about laws, whether we think they're good laws or bad laws, it's always about such a small slice of the population, right? Most of us don't need to be told not to kill someone. But for the people who do, we need to have law on the books so that they can suffer the penalty of that offence. The equal and opposite is rights. The same can be said. Most of us don't need rights about being discriminated against based on our sex. But there's a small sector of of society who need to have those in place so they can be protected when it happens to them. And whether they're good people or bad people, like I said, the black hat, white cap thing is a cowboy thing. The good guys always wear the white hat. And however, whether they're got a gang patch or a bowling club patch, maybe that's the modern version of that. The human rights need to be afforded equally to those people. Chewy.
Yeah, nothing further to add there. That's absolutely perfect.
All right. There's a few. Do you want to get to those super chats, and I'll go bring up the last story.
Free Soul, if Trump gets in, he'd let Jared Kushner turn Palestine into beachfront properties for billionaires with a golf course.
Probably right. Probably fair call.
I could see it. Brian Turner obviously pointing out there's a big Jewish vote in the US, and yeah, that's you got to balance that there will be Zionist Jews there.
But there's something interesting about the Jewish vote. The conservatives are the ones who are absolutely super Zionist, right? The conservative, the Republicans. But the Jewish population in the US hugely votes for Democrats, always have. Because if you go back to like even civil rights times, there's so many stories about the Jewish community, integrating themselves with the civil rights community and fighting the fight with them, for them, being buffers, you might say, Chewy. And since then, the Jewish community en masse has been far more aligned with the left than the right, and in the voting bloc are still so today. You're saying, sorry, Chewy.
Also, probably worth mentioning as well, there was a demonstration in Tel Aviv end of last week, 170,000 people marching against Netanyahu. So yeah, definitely not united in that. Tafari, better a crazy cat lady than a creepy couch man.
Yeah. Yikes.
Bud Coolford says, I feel martial law is coming to New Zealand. And Anna Houston says, jobs with power like police attract good and bad. Yeah, that's very true.
Just to reiterate what I just said, because we run on the fly here. This is the Times of Israel. Okay, pretty Israeli friendly, you would think. Group. I have a story that says 68% of Jewish voters favor Harris, 25% plan to vote for Trump. So what does that make it? 3-1? Did he do it? 3-1? Pretty much. 2/3 of Jewish voters in America vote Democrat. 1/4 vote Republican, or certainly vote Trump, because there'll be a number of those who won't necessarily vote Democrat all the time, but they don't want to vote for Trump. So, sorry, you go.
That's it.
That's it. So you read Anna's, did you? Okay. Yeah. All right, team. Let's go to the last story. Now, this day has been cram-packed with news. Like, honestly, there's already news I'm slipping into tomorrow's show. There's been so much going on, because what the government has done today has actually finally released what they say are the treaty principles that are going to be a bill and a referendum on. Let's have a listen.
Government advisors from the Justice Ministry have joined the long list of critics of the proposed treaty principles bill.
So I didn't want to cut that too short. So the government advisors are saying, don't do this now as well. The people who are advising them are saying it.
Associate Justice Minister David Seymour released more details around the controversial legislation today and fired back at his own officials. Senior political reporter Benedict Collins explains.
It's clear he's got a dead bill walking. Nevertheless, David Seymour was ripping on its newest critics today, his own officials.
Do you hear that? So he's shitting on the people who wrote the bill, his people. He's decided to shit on them because it won't go through.
They believe that people aren't allowed to have a say about the future of their own country. They believe that ordinary people aren't actually able to think and reason and decide what they want for their futures.
Those officials think Act's bill threatens social cohesion, is ham-fisted, and worse than the status quo.
The whole purpose of this exercise is to push back against the bureaucracies.
It seems that officials are on the same page as you when it comes to the treaty bill. They think it's divisive. They think it could threaten social cohesion. I mean, why not just kill it now?
Well, we're in an MMP environment, as I've said yesterday. I don't know how to keep explaining it to you. I'm very relaxed about it. We've put it into process.
But is it worth threatening social cohesion over?
Well, I think what you're going to see is there's going to be an aeration of the views through the public select committee. That's where people can sound off on all sides of it. But as I've been really clear, we're not voting or supporting it beyond that.
It is, the more I think about it, it is pretty revolting that this government and Luxon is aware. In fact, he's pretty much said, I think he has literally said, that will cause division, and they're letting it go. So what he's actively doing, what they're actively doing is going, we know this process will cause harm to New Zealand. We know that, but we're going to let it continue because we have to, because Seymour is holding our feet to the flames. So in other words, this is being done 100% because of Seymour. Now, in saying that, Luxon owns it. But Luxon owns it. We've got to always say, come back and say, Luxon still owns this because Luxon opened the door. So there is literally one person in the country who's pushing this through. And because Luxon wanted power at any cost, that's why the whole country is now possibly being thrown into turmoil because of this. And Luxon's basically having to go, yeah, I'm fine with the whole country being thrown into turmoil. Oh, that's fine because, you know, MMP and all that shit. Shall we?
Yeah, what's come about out of him discussing the treaty principles bill is one very notable nugget for me, is this was the red line for the coalition agreement between ACT and National. That was what it came down to. Everything else was solvable. This is the one that they went to the line for.
Yeah.
And this tells me that Luxon blinked. He didn't think it was important enough. He wanted to form a government. This is what the game of chicken that is negotiating the agreement, he chickened. The thing about this is, put this in the context of everything else that they've said.
Yep.
The previous government, wasteful with money. We are going through the full 6-month public consultation period so everybody can vent their spleen in an incredibly damaging process to the cohesion of our society for a bill that is dead walking now.
Yeah. As Chirpy
And
says,
he
wanted the
still
title.
won't pull the trigger on this and go, this isn't worth the flack that I'm generating. This isn't worth the damage that it is going to do to our society.
Yeah.
He is going to hands off it and say, well, this is part of our coalition agreement and we've got to honor our agreements, right?
Yeah.
Let's debate this previous agreement.
What he's basically saying is, I'm okay for kind of, 1981 Springbok Tour division for 6 months because, bloody, blah, MMP for 6 months. That's what he's saying. And now he has to own that. Let's get to the end of the story.
Bill seeks to define the treaty principles, including...
We'll go through this in more detail. TVNZ didn't cover off the full principles, but this is the headlines.
Government has full power to make laws, that hapu and iwi have rights when they sign the treaty, te tiriti, and that everyone is equal before the law.
This is a bill that's trying to rewrite New Zealand history. It's going to be a very divisive debate. It's taking us backwards by 50 years at least.
Is it a waste of money and time and resources to, give the...
That not me. It's a total waste of money for government to be pursuing a bill through a select committee process that it has no intention of then passing.
Others suggest it'll be money well spent. For ACT.
This is interesting.
What we have here is a Trojan horse where ACT are actually using this as part of their campaign strategy to go into the whole of the middle of next year.
The treaty bill and the fierce debate around it lives on for now. Benedict Collins, One News.
So that's the story. I want to go and show you a couple more things because I'll take you to the actual Stuff article because they cover off some of that information in more detail. So this is the process from today. Cabinet has agreed on what the treaty principles bill should say, but its proposed principles could cause social division and constitutional uncertainty, according to official advice. So there are people who are writing this, who are involved with writing it behind the scenes, are now going, excuse me, sir, are you realizing how this is going to root our country for a while? You are aware of that, yeah? Because remember, when this doesn't go through, your racist Uncle Bob from Nelson is going to continue this conversation on for the next 18 months. This is not going to end when it doesn't get voted for. This is going to then go on with a group of people going, Luxon's woke, he didn't vote for it as well. And that will actually foment and continue this conversation. But here's the actual full reading of what it says, because TVNZ gave the headlines, yeah? So these are the things. Civil government. The government of New Zealand has full power to govern, and Parliament has full power to make laws lawns, Parliament's lawns, laws. They do so in the best interests of everyone. Well, that'd be nice to see government doing that. In accordance with the rule of law and the maintenance of a free and democratic society. Number 2, rights of hapu and iwi Māori. The Crown recognises the rights that hapu and iwi had when they signed the treaty or Te Tiriti. That's interesting.
I find that phrasing interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. So they're going to uphold that Māori didn't cede sovereignty. Okay, cool. The Crown will respect and protect those rights. Interesting. Of course, they're also telling us what those rights were. Remember, they're not necessarily going to, Dr. Margaret Mutu to ask what those facts were. They're just, remember, Seymour won't tell us who's written these things. So basically what Seymour says they are is what they are. Those rights differ from the rights everyone has a reasonable expectation to enjoy only when they are specific in legislation, treaty settlements, or other agreement with the Crown. So what they're basically saying is, unless it says it in law, it doesn't matter that you've got this rights from the treaty, you will be treated all the same, unless it's specified. Now, this is I think the most interesting one. Right to equality, because TVNZ, I think, got this wrong. Everyone is equal before the law. That's where they left it, right? And is entitled to the equal protection and equal benefit of the law without discrimination. Now, that's different, right? So you'll be entitled to equal benefit of the law without discrimination. So discrimination is now not allowed. Everyone is entitled to the equal enjoyment of the same fundamental human rights without discrimination. Now, I'm sorry if there's any free speech union people watching, but that's horseshit. And I'll tell you why it's horseshit. Because if you are someone who believes this, right? If you believe this to be actual and factual, then you better not be a hypocrite, and you better get on the phone right now and start fighting. Start actually fighting for lowering of the voting age, because the courts have ruled at the moment that the voting age is discriminatory based on age, right? That's what the courts have ruled that. And Mr. Seymour's bill said everyone is entitled to equal enjoyment of the same fundamental human rights, and everyone is equal before the law and is entitled to the equal protection and equal benefit, i.e. voting, of the law without discrimination. Now, why it's horseshit, what they're saying is there is a ton of what's referred to as legal discrimination, right? Happens all the time. It happens everywhere. We talk about this all the time. Discrimination based on sex to be a Catholic priest. You get discriminated against females, you can't be a Catholic priest. It's allowed to because there is such a thing as legal discrimination. So when these free speech fundamentalists go out and they say stuff like that, they're just lying to everyone. Okay, so no more parliamentary privilege, Chewie. So that's what they're saying. Because parliamentary privilege gives MPs the right to defame someone. We can't do that, but they have a right to do it. That's discriminatory to us. We should be able to defame people if they can, but they won't be giving up that special little thing they can do. So it's just horseshit. It's horseshit about everyone. What it is, actually, let me rephrase it. What it is it's not explained or talked about in an intelligent way, right? Because the reality is we have legal discrimination. If you're 63 and you don't get the pension, you're being discriminated on based on age. It goes on and on and on and on. So when they put these things out, these are these free speech people who try and sell it all as a black and white society that we live in. We don't live in a black and white society. We live in shades of gray. There is nuance. There is discrimination here that there's allowed to be. There's discrimination there that's allowed to be. And they don't get it. Well, maybe they do get it, Chewie, but they just choose to arse around with it. So there you go. That's the news from today.
I mean, that was sort of laid out mid-afternoon today or something. I think I can't wait for smarter people than you or I to really get into the nuts and bolts, because
smarter
I think
you or I?
Yes, I never said I was a smart one. I said I was roguishly handsome and full of charisma. But yeah, I think this is the thing. We're not going to need 6 months for someone to point at this and go, this is a load of horse shit. I think we're going to see scholars and legal experts all go, well, hang on, does this mean that, as you said, 16-year-olds or younger can vote? Does this mean that I can claim super at the age of 44? If I'm a prisoner, I can vote now.
Can I offer something? Someone
that
in the
what you're
chat can say someone brilliantly.
Yes,
Very short. Remember, everyone is to be treated equal under the law. Very short. Right to equality, transferred to English. You can wear your gang patch.
Hmm.
Do you see this is the point? This is the point. They're making laws that discriminate. Now there may be justifiable discrimination, which is sort of what I was saying before about Catholic priests based on their religious beliefs. It may be justifiable discrimination that this person can't wear that piece of clothing because of public safety, but it is discrimination. It is. It's discrimination, but it's justifiable discrimination, at least according to the government. So on one hand, they're doing this bullshit free speech bloody, at this network, yeah, everyone should be the same. And then everyone's not the same. And they're like, well, that's fine as well. It's like, you can't have it both ways. Right to equality, thank you, very short, it's brilliant. Transferred it to English, you can wear your gang patch. No. We can discriminate against them because we have reason to. Well, hang on. Actually, what your amendment says is everyone is equal before the law and is entitled to equal protection and equal benefit of the law. Well, except for gang members with patches. It's just smoke and mirrors, guys. It's smoke and mirrors. If we were watching, what is it, Penguins of Madagascar? Smile and wave. Smile and wave. That's all it is. Smoke and mirrors. There was a bit of a donk at the end of that sentence. No, it must be.
It was.
And Mr. Arvis has a question. Can we confirm that Chewy has Riz? Can we confirm that?
Ask your mother.
Oh, come on then. Speaking of, Wooming also says our worst case of humanity needs his camera time. Okay, well, I feel that big kind of loud wrap up there feels like I'm sort of done. What are we doing now? Are we done? Have you got anything to say? Do you want to share anything?
I just want America to just move on from this, and I know it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
I know it's not going to happen. I know that as much as we want to look at something like the debate and go, well, it's settled. You know, Taylor Swift has ordained that Kamala is going to be president, and we don't even need just give it to her. Just give it to her now. We don't even need to have an election. I think as much as we might laugh at the insanity of it, I think if you're in America, and certainly part of some of the communities in America, you'd be very afraid of what's potentially coming.
Yes, and listen, I think we haven't had
a single thing from Trump to suggest that January 6th was just a test run and that there was going to be any any sort of thing that go, oh yeah, I'll totally accept whatever happens this time. So yeah.
And just because we kind of started the show today and we just started talking and never did anything else, can I just use this moment, just this little moment, just to say huge thanks to our patrons. Thank you for doing what I've actually seen a couple of regulars, and you know who you are, and you'll get a shout out on Monday. A couple of our regulars have upped their Patreon contribution. They've changed levels within that. Funnily enough, Cherry, there is someone we've been talking to about like the expansion. We've been talking about the host or hosts who has just sent me some videos of something they've done as a bit of a test run. So we might have a look at that and see what's been going on.
Cool.
Yes. So yeah, huge thanks, guys. I mean, I always find it hilarious. This happens quite a lot in my Twitter feed. It's adorable. These big, tough and rough people who are trying to take the piss and make us feel bad, talking about, well, Pat, why don't you go and get a job? I was like, hey, patrons, thank you for my job. I have a job. This is pretty much my job. I have it. Thank you, patrons. Thank you for people who buy merch. Thank you. Oh, you know what, guys? I'm talking to people about mugs. You watch the chat go crazy now because they've been talking about mugs for 12 months. I'm talking to someone in China at the moment about mugs. So they could be coming anytime soon. And next month, I don't think I've told you this yet, Chewy. I think we will do, I'm talking breast cancer because it's breast cancer month. And we might even do a special pink BHN top. We've only ever done black and white. Next month we might do a special pink one just for breast cancer, and they might be our charity for next month. I've been talking to them. We might even do it. We might even do it officially. We might even get their little ribbon, Chewy, officially. We might be allowed to use it. Could be fun.
Oh, okay.
Could be fun.
That'd be cool.
So yeah, thanks, guys. You help us to do all these things. Genuinely, without you, we couldn't be doing this now. If you're interested, if you like what we do, if you do want to be a part of it, of course, watching is great. Telling people about us, sharing our stuff around, buying the merch, just being our advocates. But also, if you want to be kind of more hands-on and more day-to-day, patreon.com/Big Hairy News is the place to go and do that. And what you will get as well is you'll end up getting your name in the credits. And that's always pretty cool, because that's where our I've got to think of a name, like Wall of Heroes. What do we call it? Our credits of cramazing people. Our credits, we're rolling our credits full of cramazing people.
I feel like I should be throwing you a lifeline at this point, but I'm just
Please.
gonna. Before you roll,
Yo,
you have to apologize to Mr. Arvids.
Do I? What have I done?
It was not a question about my Riz. It was confirmation. Pat, your dyslexia has brought my mother into question. How dare you?
Only one person mentioned your mother here, and it was not me. I apologize. Oh, God, I'm terrible at reading. When we talked to Alistair yesterday, and I couldn't read the word covenantal, just wouldn't come. Covenant. They have a covenant with, I said.
Continental breakfast.
Continental. Oh, sounds like a wedding morning conversation. All right, team. It has been a blast to be with you again tonight. Really important. It feels like it's a really important Information Tonight show. And tomorrow night, Thursday, we'll continue this conversation with you. I think from, I don't know, what do we make it 9? We'll make it 9 o'clock tomorrow night just for a change.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work at what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting bees from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a war path to run, and linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher in mind. All have a lean either this way or that, and will be analyzed by both Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
It is Big Hairy News. Thanks so much for being with us tonight, team. Look forward to speaking with you whānau, tomorrow evening from 9 p.m. when we will have a whole bunch more interest. I was just thinking to you, I've got news that I'm already trying to plug in for tomorrow night's show because it's not going to fit here. I can't remember what it is though, so we'll get on to that tomorrow. That's it from me tonight though, Joe. Anything from you, sir?
No, that's me. I'm done as well. Yes, we'll be back tomorrow night and it'll be exciting times.
I guess before we go, shits and giggles, Rimmer, Crichton and the cat are in another universe. The cat needs to bail. Thank you, Bill. Possibly the latest super chat we've ever had in the show. Oh, and we've got another one here. We haven't mentioned this yet. Informative podcasting is a job. Thanks, Pat and Chewy. Thank you, team. All right, we'll catch you tomorrow night from 9. We'll see you live at 9. Hooroo, team. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Cheers, man.
Hooroo. Hooroo. We're leaving now. Hooroo.
Good night. Ignore him, Nala. Oh.